All right, I'm super excited. So, Janie, please tell me it's 7 o'clock. I want to get started.
It's 7 o'clock.
All right, wonderful. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to JK's free monthly real estate training. I am super pumped and excited to be here to impart a piece of my soul to you. Mathemagics, okay? Really bringing in mathematics into the real estate investing and into, in my particular case, teaching. Teaching mathematics, teaching real estate, it all comes together right now, today, and I've got a lot for you. And this is stuff, these are topics and concepts that I only glanced over in other events and other trainings, such as the USA Workshop and in our premium mastery calls. I don't really talk about this because it kind of happens in between the deals. But here, I think this is really awesome for you to have all of these tools up front and for you to just be able to quickly grasp a deal using some quick mathematical tricks. So I'm super excited. I hope you're going to share the passion, share the enthusiasm, and at the very least, you are just going to be impressing your party guests at your next dinner as soon as you're able to share those wonderful dinner with friends and family. So, as I mentioned, I have a lot, so I'm going to stop blabbing and I'm going to start blabbing on the actual topic. So just a little bit of housekeeping for those who are new on the call, and it might be the first training for them. So this is a webinar. You're an attendee. I can't hear you, so we're going to use the Q&A section and the chat section. So if you have questions during the training, put them in the Q&A. And either Janie will answer it behind the scenes while I'm talking, or we'll just, if we have time at the end, we'll get to it then. And if you're having technical difficulties, if you want to shout out to the group or to us or share some love, use the chat for that. And that way we'll have two different sections to filter and be efficient in the communications. At the end of the day, this is a safe learning environment. I don't want anybody hating on me because I love math. Okay, that's not the place to do this. But if you it won't happen, but if it does happen, you're going to get harpooned because we don't like sharks in our waters. So most importantly, let's have fun. I'm not going to have a problem with this today. I'm super pumped. But keep in mind that everything that we talk about is for educational purposes. And especially today, it's a lot of quick tricks. I would not recommend you completely basing your decisions to buy or not buy an investment property or real estate based on these tricks. But it will basically do 80% of the job in a very short amount of time for you. And it's just a great way, and I'm going to talk about it later, a great way to use your time to have massive results. Okay, so a little bit about me, but I really want to skip through this quickly because there's a lot of content today. Basically, this is me. I got a couple letters after my name. There's a bunch of companies, financially free, real young, collector of Janieisms. By the way, this month's Janieism is, all right, just cut the chase, okay? It's a hybrid of, okay, just cut to the chase and maybe cutting the cheese happening at the same time. It's a very odd Janieism, but I like it. Or maybe it's cutting the line at the same time as cutting to the chase. Either way, just cut the chase and be done with it. All right, Janie, my wonderful life, business, and soul partner, president, CEO, visionary, the leader of us all, wonderful human being, and creator of Janieism. So thank you for all those beautiful Janieisms. It's always a pleasure. Okay.
You're welcome, Kyle.
So why are we here? All right. This is the reason we're here. And I'm going to basically start every one of our monthly calls with this slide because it's basically the reason. Why would you pay $500,000 to $750,000 for a duplex that's generating $17,000 approximately per year, when you can pay $100,000 for a duplex that generates the same amount every year, right? Now, this is slightly an extreme example, although these are real properties. They are both real properties that were picked maybe about 3 or 6 months ago as of today's date. So we're, for posterity purposes, we're talking about end of 2019 is the timestamp on this. A little extreme, but what we like to say when we're talking to people who are looking to invest in US real estate is, look, you can, for half the price, get double the returns. For half the price, you can get double the returns. In other words, right out the gate, you are looking at investments that are 4 times more profitable. all right? It costs half and you get twice more. So you have two multiplicative factors happening right there. So right out the gate, just because we're going to invest someplace where it makes more sense, we are 4 times more efficient in our investing. So show me some love just for that. That's pretty awesome. I think that's worth the time you just spent so far, right? 4 times out of the gate. The time it would have taken you to buy 1 in Canada, you can buy 4 in the US. Pretty awesome, all right? You're welcome. But let's move on. I'm going to skip over this because I really want to get to the crux of it. Basically, this is our first year of real estate investing. We spent a bunch of money in mentorship. We got almost 10 properties under our belt in our first year. We went through lots of hardships and trials and tribulations, but we learned a tremendous amount. We grew a tremendous amount. And ultimately, to do this business remotely, you need good teams, good basics, good knowledge, and so forth. But, you know, I talked about this on the last training, so you can go to the recording to listen to that to get the whole story about our ninja magician raccoon Jub Jub. But basically, in Canada, often properties are going to cash flow negatively, whereas in, for example, Cleveland, Ohio, where we love, you can very well and easily find positive cash flowing properties, and we're going to get into why that is so important in just a bit. But this was the last property we bought in our first year. All in for $55,000. Now it's worth a lot more, and it has a nice cash flow, $150 a month after all expenses. Wonderful. But even to this day, okay, this is a property that we own. This is a property that we have for sale. We do own it, but it is for sale right now. Where for all in, you can buy it for $54,000. You would buy it for $39,000, put $15,000 into it. It's a duplex, and it would net cash flow $700 a month. All right, that's a 15.5 cap. So if you're interested, go to Cleveland, send us an email. There are still deals available right now. In fact, just a triplex came into my inbox this morning, and I put an offer on it immediately. I said, look, $36,000 cash, close in 1 week. Are you taking it? I'm in negotiations, but that is even higher than a 15 cap right now happening. All right, so this is not, oh, you could do that 10 years ago in 2009. No, it's still happening right now. Here's another example in my inbox this morning, and I'm not kidding. It's not just, oh, this morning this happened. This is literally, there's a lot of stuff that happened this morning. We had an accepted offer on this mobile home park, a 40-lot mobile home park in Minnesota, $1 million, all right? That's the accepted purchase price, and it's basically turnkey. I put renovations in there just because we might want to just clean up some things, but really it's turnkey, fully occupied, so forth. We're talking $12,000 a month net cash flow. That's after all expenses, okay? It's almost a 14 cap on $1 million purchase. Now, you'll come to learn that the higher you go in the assets, the higher the purchase price, the harder it is to get those higher caps, all right? I showed you a 15 cap in a duplex. That's much more frequent than a 15 cap in a mobile home park or an apartment building or so forth. So amazing deals that are happening right now, okay? So, here's a little plug. If you haven't already read our ebook, you can, all right? It's available, it's free. It goes through the steps of our first year of investing, nowfortomorrow.club/ebook. Go and get it. That's all I'm gonna say. Today's training, all right, the mathematics of real estate. I know I'm talking fast, but you will have it recorded, so you can play me back in maybe 0.5 and you can have a better time understanding what I'm saying. But right now I'm gonna keep it at about 1.2 speed because I'm so excited to get to the stuff here. So we are going to learn some really cool real estate math tricks. Again, these are tricks. They're not an exact science for the most part. And the purpose is to quickly get an idea whether this is a good, a great, or a bad potential investment. All right, that's why we have these tricks. So first of all, I want to teach you the rule of 72. The rule of 72 doesn't really have to do with real estate, but it has to do with investing. It is a trick, very accurate, okay? I've done the mathematical models myself I'm a math geek, math professor and teacher from a previous life, and so I've actually replicated the model and I've correlated this trick to the actual numbers, the actual graphs, and it is extremely accurate. I'm talking like above 95% accurate, and most times above 98% accurate. Super accurate. is my point here. So the rule of 72 is a way to figure out how long it takes an investment to double. And all you need is the interest rate at which an investment is placed. So for example, if you have an investment at 1%, if you look at the formula on the left, you would take 72 divided by 1, which gives 72 years to double that investment. If you have an investment at 2%, 72 divided by 2 is 36. If you have 3%, it takes 24 years. 4%, 18 years. 6%, 12 years to double an investment, starting to get interesting. At 8%, you're doubling every 9 years. At 9%, you're doubling every 8 years. You'll notice that if you multiply this column with this column, it always gives 72, all right? That's how it's happening here. If you have an investment at 12%, you're doubling every 6 years. Look at that duplex and that mobile home park, all right? Imagine if you had $1 million to spend and you just put it in something at 12%, you're doubling. If you keep investing in those type of investments, you're doubling that million every 6 years, all right? That number is going to blow up fast and understandable. People, not everyone has $1 million to just spend, but even if you started with 50,000, a double really goes fast. But imagine if you can invest at 18% and you were doubling every 4 years, okay? It's still, these numbers are still accurate even at the 18% rate. You're basically doubling every 4.2 years or something like that. Super fast doubling for an investment. So keep this in mind. Some of you on the call may have already listened to the video that's going to come next, but it's worth listening to again. So I'm going to let you go through that, and it's the only video on today's training. After that, we're going to go through a bunch of other tricks, so stay with me. Okay, let's talk about retirement. How much money do you need to retire? Do you even know?
Should we even know?
Should we even know? Do you want to retire?
I'm already retired.
Okay, fine. Do you know how much you need to retire? And I'm not talking about retire at 65 years old where you're collecting old age pension and if you have any RSPs or IRA funds waiting for you. Do you know how much money you would need today to retire? Well, according to literature and actuarial research that's out there, if you are born in the 80s, 70s and 80s, you need $1.8 million to retire today.
What?
If you are born in the 90s, or if you are a millennial, you will need about $2.5 million to retire.
That's impossible. Not like most people put nothing aside. How are they expected to have $2.5 million by the age of 65 to have a comfortable retirement? Tell me.
Indeed. So if you don't already have that money in your account, don't worry. We're here to help. So let's go back to return on investments, interest rates, because that's the key to this whole story. If you have a good job, let's say you have a good job, you're earning $100,000 a year, and you manage to put aside $25,000 of that every year. Okay, you are scraping, you are cutting corners, you're eating crab dinner. You are putting $25,000 a year every year. And let's say you started earning that salary at 20 years old. Well, between 20 and 30, how much money will you have amassed? $25,000 times 10 years, you earned $250,000. Okay, so you're on the right path, right? That number is going up. Okay. What about between 30 and 40? Another $250,000. Between 40 and 50. Between 50 and 60. So by age 60, you have $1 million. But your retirement is 5 years away, right? Even with a high-paying job, saving $25,000 a year.
That's insane.
It's insane. Who does that? No one can do that. For 40 years consecutively, that means you'll never have to buy a car, you'll never have to buy a house, you'll never have to change the roof on that house, you'll never have to pay for your kids' education, you'll never have to...
You can't. You just can't.
You just can't. So how in the world can we amass 1.8, 2.5, or if we wanted 10 million, 20 million in one lifetime in order to retire before 65 years old? How do we do that? Interest rates. Okay. So now, rather than just taking your salaried money and putting it, under your mattress every year, putting that $25,000 every year, putting it under a mattress, and
Or
then,
in a savings account that's literally making you those money.
or let's be honest, putting it under the mattress and putting it in the savings account is the same thing, because the savings account is earning you 0.00 nothing. It's once it's nothing. Okay, so don't even think you're earning something. You're not earning anything. Did you know that there's this quick trick mathematically to see how long it takes an investment to double simply with the interest rate that money is invested at? No? Well, math geek, math guy, here's the trick. It's called the rule of 72. And it's actually quite accurate. I've done the models. Very accurate. It's not just it works approximately. It's really quite accurate. And this rule, this is how you do it. You take 72 and you divide it by the interest rate. So, for example, if you have an investment opportunity that's offering you 1%, like a bank savings account, you take 72 and you divide by 1. 72 divided by 1, 72 years to double an investment at that interest rate.
Are you saying, Kyle, that if I'm putting $1,000 aside every year in my savings account, I'm going to be dead by the time I see $2,000 in that same account?
That's exactly right.
That's interesting.
If you put $1,000 today in a bank savings account at 1%, which is better than what they're offering, it will take 72 years for that $1,000 to become $2,000. So it's not growing. Okay, it's not. It will not grow.
Oh, and there's inflation.
Oh yeah, right. There's inflation eating away 2% of that. So you're losing. Let's say we go to an aggressive GIC, if such a thing exists, and it's offering you 3%. Okay? Let's take inflation aside just for the purpose of this calculation. In how many years will that investment double? Rule of 72. 72 divided by 3, which is the interest rate on that investment. 72 divided by 3 is 24 years to double that investment. Let's take it up again. You put $10,000 in a GIC. Let's say you're 20 years old. By the time you're 44, you will have 20,000. Now that 20,000 will double in 24 years. So from 44 to 68, you're now at $40,000. So it had time to double almost by the time you typically retire at 65 years old. Right? Better doubling twice than doubling once. Next level up. Let's say you have an RSP that's earning you 6%. Okay? Medium risk, typical RSP, generally 6%, makes sense. Rule of 72, work it with me. 72 divided by 6 is 12 years to double your investment. Now we're getting interesting. Let's say you're almost said fresh out of the bank, fresh out of school, or at 20 years old, you put $10,000 in RSP. By the time you're 32, you're at 20,000. By the time you're at 44, it doubles, 40,000. By the time you're at, 56, I might have messed up my numbers here, but you're at 80,000. Did I do this right? I might be all over the place, but you get it. You have time to double 20 to 65, 3 to 4 times in one lifetime. So at 10,000 becomes 20, becomes 40, becomes 80, baby, becomes $160,000. Much better than your 1% investment that doubled once, but we're not at 1.8 or 2.5 million yet, are we? No. Let's say we have an investment at 12%. Rule of 72. 72 divided by 12 is 6 years. It doubles every 6 years. Now, is that interesting? Well, you tell me. If it doubles every 6 years and you start at 20 and you want to retire at 65, how many 6 years do you have between 20 and 65? That's 45. You have 7 and change. 7 and change doublings until 65. So that means you're doubling 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128.
your investment of $10,000 will multiply by 128. Do the numbers. You put in $10,000 once at age 20, and it becomes $1.28 million when you're ready to retire at 65, if you want to retire at 65. One investment of $10,000 with an interest rate that's interesting. So that's why they call it interesting, right? It's interesting, all right? So make sure you're using the right phonetics when you're involved in this topic. So one investment of $10,000 can almost bring you to retirement if you're putting it in the right investment vehicle. That's one decision. That's $10,000. What if year 2 you put another $10,000 at 12%? Suddenly, you're at $2.5 million for 2 years. That was a good decision on year 20, a good decision on year 21. What if year 3 you put another $10,000? Year 4 you put another $10,000. This is basic stuff. Interest rate. So basically, my point that I'm trying to drive home here is that is an interest rate of 12%, 12 times better than an interest rate at 1%? No, it is so much more. Give it time to grow. Your interest is compounding, and one good decision can set you up for your retirement. I hope this was illuminating. Sun's starting to come down now, so I guess that was a bit of a long-winded explanation. But I'm glad you stick through it. I hope you learned a little something, and I hope you're making your money work for you as hard as you're currently working for your money. What is the best employee you can have? It's an employee that doesn't sleep, that doesn't eat, that doesn't need to go to the bathroom, that never asks for vacations.
What kind of employee is that?
What kind of employee is that? It's the type of employees I have. Janie has. Any good investor has. The best employee is your money. Make your money work for you. And be a bad boss, okay? Just never let them stop working. Put them to work and keep working them. And then that money's going to earn money. They're going to have baby employees. What do you do with those baby employees? Janie? Put them to work. Because guess what? There's no slavery laws on money. Those kind of employees you can use and abuse. We're in a society that this is permitted. And I mean, it's money, right? It's not people. You do it. Do it. All right, that's good enough. So once again, remember, Waminji, we mine now for tomorrow. Happy investing. Talk soon.
All right, how was that? That's pretty awesome, huh? All right, so let's move right along. So that's the first rule, the rule of 72, super important as the basic foundational theory of compound interest in investing. So let's move right along to the 80-20 rule. This is our second trick of the evening. Having a great ROI is great, okay? So we learn how great it can be between a 1% and a 12%. But how efficient are you at finding an investment that is at 8% or at 10% or 15% or 30%? How quickly can you find those higher investments? How much time are you willing to put to find one investment at 15% rather than just taking on investments that are maybe at 10%, right? That is a very important question to ask. Now, the 80-20 rule is a rule that applies in everything, not just investing. And most of the other rules that a lot of the other rules that we're going to talk about are going to help us achieve the principle of this particular rule. Okay, but what is the 80-20 rule? The 80-20 rule says that you have 86,400 of these to spend every day. You have 31,536,000 of these to spend every year. And it only takes one to change a life, or it only takes one of those moments or seconds to find that right investment. So we just have to keep on looking and be efficient on how we look so that we find that one. The 80-20 rule is that you want to use 20% of your time to generate 80% of your results. 20% of your time generates 80% of your results. If you always live by that principle, you are going to live a very efficient, a very productive, a very result-driven life. And that's what I want for you. So if 20% gives you 80 results, right? If 20% of your time gives you 80% of your results, well, you've got 5 more of those 20%, right? So you can get 80% results times 5 as well. So if you use your 100% of your time being 80-20 effective or 20-80 effective, you are effectively living 4 lives in one, right? Does that make sense? If you are being efficient using the 80-20 rule, you can literally live 4 lives in one in terms of it from an efficiency standpoint. So we have just the fact that we're investing in the US rather than Canada, we have a 4 times factor. And if we manage to apply the 80-20 rule, we have another 4 times factor getting involved, okay? So these are massive, massive multipliers, okay? But let's keep on going. The 110-3-1 rule, all right? You often hear real estate is a numbers game. And this is a good visual and trick for you to keep your mindset solid and to help you achieve the 80-20 rule. So what does that mean? Out of every 100 offers that you place, 10 will be good deals, right? For the marketplace, 10 will be good. 3 will be great, and 1 will be exceptional. Which one do you want to buy? Which one are you going to buy? Are you going to find a good deal and buy it? Right, a good deal in your market might be a 3 cap right now, but maybe in Cleveland, a good deal is maybe a 9 cap, a 10 cap. That's a pretty good deal, right? A great deal might be a 12 to 13, and exceptional might be a 15, 20. What do you want to buy? And how efficient are you going to be in achieving that? Basically, how long are you willing to take to find an exceptional deal? Or how many calls are you willing to make? And when you make those calls, are you spending an hour on every single call and not going anywhere? Are you spending 2 hours analyzing a deal before even making a call? That is not using the 80-20 rule. That's my point here. And often when you hear the 110-3-1 rule, they say out of every 100 deals, 10, you'll put an offer on 10. And out of those 10, 3 will be good enough to buy, and out of those 3, you buy 1, right? But if you spend any time with me, I'll tell you that if you're looking at a deal and if you're spending time on a deal, it just takes another 5-10 minutes to place an offer. You should basically place an offer on every single thing you look at because it's a numbers game. Don't let that go to waste. Unless there's a big cross-off, like, oh no, this is too high of a crime. Okay, cross that off But if the reason you don't want to place an offer or you're shy about placing an offer is that they're asking too much, or if it's numbers, that's not an excuse. Place the offer. Who knows? They might say yes. Who knows if they come back to you in 1 month, in 3 months, in 1 year saying, hey, remember you placed that offer? It wasn't good for me at the time, but now, let's talk, right? And that's where a lot of the deals are not found, but created because you had the kahunas to actually place your offer. So 100 offers, 10 good, 3 great, 1 exceptional. Which do you want? And it emphasizes the fact that it won't just be on your first call that you'll find an exceptional deal, right? You will have to call. You will have to source deals or have other people call and source deals. There needs to be volume if you really want to cherry pick the very best. If you want exceptional, you will have to do something exceptional. Remember that. So that's the next rule. 110-3-1. Now, let's move on to the 2% rule. The 2% rule is a quick rule of thumb and a quick trick for you to quickly see how strong of a cash flow a property will be. All right, and it's a ratio between the monthly rent and the purchase price. So if the monthly rent of a property were $1,000 a month and you bought it for $100,000, you take the monthly rent and you divide it by the purchase price. 1,000 divided by 100,000 gives you 1%. So it would be a 1% ratio, not a 2%. The 2% rule says that the closer you get to 2% as a ratio of the monthly rent to the purchase price, the better the deal is, right? The stronger the cash flow will be. In Canada, we call this the 1% rule most times because 2% is completely unthinkable. In the US, there are some markets where 2% is possible, right? But you still won't find 2% everywhere. But I kind of tweak this for what's maybe a bit more real in our market. And I say, if you're in the 1.5 to 2% on this rule, if your monthly rent divided by the purchase price is 1.5 to 2, you're looking at something that, right out the gate is looking good to start. And now with our solutions to the seller, we can make even better deals happen. So again, the 1.5 to 2% rule would basically mean if you're paying $100,000 for a property, the rent should be $1,500 to $2,000. If you're paying $50,000 for that home, rent should be $750 to $1,000, right? $750 being the 1.5%, and $1,000 being 2% in that range. That's why I'm giving you the range here. The higher the percentage, if you have 2%, if you find a 2.5%, literally the best purchase we did was a 4.5% on that rule, okay? An exceptional property, exceptional, right? That's the one. They're not all like that. Even for us with all the system and all the marketing power and the networking we do, exceptional deals don't happen every day, all right? That's okay, that's normal. But the higher the percentage, the better it is. And even in the US, reaching the 2% can be very difficult, all right? Can be difficult, especially in the single family home space. But just keep that in mind, the 2% rule is something that exists. Next rule, the 50% rule. The 50% rule is used to predict how much of a property's gross will end up being net, right? So it's an estimation on, let's say a property, did I have an example here? Right here. Let's say a property has $1,000 a month in gross rent. That's the rent. So in a year, it's generating $12,000 of annual rent or gross income. The 50% rule says multiply by 0.5 or multiply by 50%, and that gross will translate to the net. If you take 12,000 and you multiply it by 0.5, you get $6,000. This is a quick estimation that this property should generate $6,000 net after all expenses except the mortgage. Okay, all expenses except the mortgage. So we're talking taxes, insurance, management, maintenance, utilities, and the other shit like capital expenditures, vacancies, permits and licensing, depending. So all of that accounts for 50%, but not the mortgage. So this is a great BS detector when you're looking at a wholesaler ad or you're looking at a seller advertising a property and they show you this property with $1,000 a rent a month, and they say, oh, the NOI is $8,500, and you're like, something doesn't sound right. That's because now you have the 50% rule to quickly filter through to see, oh, now you have, in French we call la puce à l'oreille. Now you're like looking for a problem because the numbers are a little out of whack. So did they include management? Did they account and put a maintenance budget aside? Because things do break, and that is a real expense over time. So often sellers fluff the numbers to make them look better, but the 50% rule will quickly put you on track to figure out if something is going awry. Now, next, 2 rules. The 2 golden rules of real estate, and I touch on this a lot during our USA workshop, our 2-day training, but if you follow these next 2 rules, you will be better off than 95% of people who buy real estate. Okay, and what are those? You buy at a discount. So if a property is worth $100,000, don't go paying $100,000. Don't go paying $120,000. Real estate is one of those assets that you can buy under its market value. Right? You can help people by quickly buying their property so they can quickly sell to do whatever they're looking to do next. Buy another property, pay a medical bill, settle a divorce, whatever it is. You can buy at a discount, and a good estimation on how much of a discount you should buy, you should be aiming for 30% discount, right? If a property is worth $100,000, you should be paying about $70,000 for it. Now we're starting to get into that great and exceptional range on a deal. And rule number 2 is you want to buy cash flow. No sense buying something, even at a great discount, if it's not cash flowing and it's costing you every money to have that. You are going to run out of money. You're going to have to work harder at your JOB to support this supposed investment. You can't buy 100, 1,000, 10,000 properties if each property is negative $50 on cash flow, right? It's going to cost you more and more every month every time you acquire more properties. So buy at a discount, buy cash flow. Which brings us to the 70% rule. Now, I mentioned this quickly. 70% rule is basically in residential properties, you want to buy with about 30% discount. So if you, let's say a property is worth 100,000, you have to be able to buy it and fix it up, make it to the point where it's generating money in cash flow at 70%. So that means you can buy it at 50,000, put 20 in it, so you're in it for 70, and it's worth 100. You've bought at a discount. So that's the 70% rule. Effectively buying at 30% discount, that's fine. And why is this considered a very good, great deal or exceptional deal if you buy at 30% off? Because then you're able to refinance it and pull out all the money. So let's say you bought a property, cash, let's say, for example, $70,000, and it's worth 100. You can then go to the bank and say, look, I have something that is worth 100,000. Can you refinance me, put a mortgage on it, and cash me out? And they can probably, most likely, refinance you at 65 or 70% of its value. It's a great deal. They're in the business of giving mortgages, so they'll like that. And they will give you back your capital all, if not almost all, if it was a great and exceptional deal. Okay, so that's why the 70% rule is so strong, because you can refinance to cash out all your money and do what we call a perfect BRRRR. If that's unfamiliar to you, it's in our ebook and in our USA workshop where we go in more detail about the BRRRR strategy to buy and recycle capital to buy multiple properties with the same money. Next, we're going to move now from residential into commercial, in the commercial space, commercial lending space, I should say. So now we're looking at properties with 5+ units. There is a rule called the 10 cap rule or the 10x rule. Now this is Grant Cardone's 10x rule cover, but this has nothing to do with Grant Cardone other than the fact that it applies to 5+ units. So let's say a 20-unit apartment building has an NOI of $100,000 per year. So it generates, say, $200,000, but after all expenses except the mortgage, there's net $100,000 per year left in the bank account. Okay. If that building is in a 10 cap market, you can estimate the market value of that property by simply multiplying by 10. That's the 10x rule. That's the 10 cap rule. Okay. You take your NOI and add a 0 to it. You take your NOI, you multiply it by 10. Or for those who really want the more general rule, you take the NOI and you divide it by the market cap. Right? If the market cap is 10, you divide by 0.1. If the market cap is 9, you divide by 0.09. But for the purpose of this and now nice easy numbers, you multiply it by 10. So this building generating $100,000 a year NOI is worth $1 million. That's how you can quickly grasp the value of an asset with 5+ units. Right? These are quick tricks for you to grasp some key information about a deal, about a property. Okay, next, the 15 cap rule. And I'm sure you're probably having some questions here. I'm going quickly, but listen to this again. Gather your questions, get the answers to these, because once you grasp all these tricks, you are going to be able to quickly navigate through deals and really get a good handle on them quickly and jump right into the negotiations, accelerating your 80-20 rule from the beginning, right? We want to get good and fast and efficient on these. So next, the 15 cap rule is the ultimate safety net when you're investing in units and 5+ units, like whether it be an apartment building or a mobile home park and so forth. So if you can buy at a 15 cap, it's the ultimate safety net. And here's why. If you buy at a 15 cap or higher, you're effectively buying at 30% discount. That's what it means. Because the value of a 5+ unit property is based on income, if you buy something that's cash flowing strong enough, like a 15 cap, that means you're buying with 30% discount. And if you buy with 30% discount, you can refinance and cash out all your money, right? It's the same concept. You have to buy at about 30% discount so that on the back end, you can refinance and cash your money out. That's why the 15 cap rule is there. Now, in these larger assets, often we do what we call a value add. So you might buy a 14 cap or a 13 cap, but there's room for improvement in increasing the rents, in filling vacancies, in adding mobile homes to a park, and that will push the value up so that when you can refinance, you get all your money back and maybe even more than you put in. That's the real sweet deal. But if you were to just buy something that's a 15 cap right now, like the mobile home park I showed, right? It was a 14.3 cap at purchase, right? That is basically just good enough so that we can not do anything. We'll probably increase rents, but we could not do anything, wait 1 year, go to a bank, refinance, get all of our money back, and now it's a free property with cash flow every year, and we've recuperated our $1 million. How sweet is that, right? That's the point. If you buy at a discount, your refinance is a very pleasant option. So here it is again. So I'm going to dive into the 15 cap rule a little bit more. So same idea. You have a 5+ multifamily property generating 100,000 net a year. The NOI is 100,000. The 10x rule says that you just multiply that by 10, it's worth $1 million. Okay? Take your NOI, that 100,000, and divide it by 0.15. Divide it by 0.15. That gives $666,667, right? That is the maximum price you can pay to buy a 15 cap, right? So that's how you find the number that makes it a 15 cap. You take the true NOI divided by 0.15, and that gives you 666,000, which is the most you can pay to get a 15 cap. And at refinance, the property is worth $1 million. So 70% of its value, if you were to refinance at 70%, they would put 700,000 back into your bank account. And yes, there's some fees involved in a refinance, so 700,000 minus some fees, but you're in for 666,000. So it's a perfect burr. You're setting yourself for a perfect burr if you're buying 15 caps, real 15 caps. So that's the 15 cap rule. All right. Yeah, that's what I said. That's what you need to, at refinance, get all your capital back. Next rule. All right, we're getting through them. How much time do we have? Lordy Lord, time flies. Okay, next is the $100 rule. Heard about cash is king? Well, I'm going to tell you cash flow is king. If you're not buying something that cash flows, you find something else. So I'm going to tell you that as a rule, you want your investments to cash flow at least $100 per month minimum if there's a mortgage. Okay, if you're financing and you have a mortgage to pay, make sure you're at least getting $100 a month from that investment. That's after including all expenses, including the mortgage. All right, so taxes, insurance, management, maintenance, mortgage, utilities, and all the other shit. Okay, after everything, make sure there's at least 100 left over. And if you're buying properties cash, no mortgage, make sure you're at least cash flowing $500 a month. Okay, so that's a little twist on the $100 rule. If you're buying cash with no mortgage, make sure you're at $500 coming in a month on cash flow. And I mean, $500 a month, that's like $1 million Canadian, right? So who's going to complain about $500 cash flow? So reminder, the two golden rules, they are buy at a discount. So I highly recommend you buy at 30% discount, whether it be residential or commercial lending space. Buy at a discount, 30%. And 2, buy cash flow. How much? 100 if financed, 500 if not financed. Okay, so we've already gone through, believe it or not, 10 quick trick rules to apply to your real estate investing. But I'm going to talk about 2 more now that are specific that you might not have heard of before. And we call them JK's bonus wealth acceleration strategies. Okay, they're not rules, they're strategies, but they're pretty sexy. JK's $75 strategy. Okay, it's an investing hack that is extremely effective for high interest loans. As foreign nationals investing in the US, you'll probably be at loans between 8 and 10%. And you're like, oh my goodness, 8 to 10%, that's so expensive. I don't want to do that, okay? Well, here's why it's so important that you cash flow strongly. If you have all that extra cash flow, why don't you accelerate your mortgage payments? $75 a month, apply that to your mortgage payments above what they're telling you to pay, okay? So let's take an example of a $70,000 mortgage. Okay, let's say you buy a property, it's worth $100,000, and your mortgage is $70,000. All right. Well, that's actually slightly. Anyways, let's say you have a $70,000 mortgage, 8% interest, amortized 30 years, and make sure you bought it at a discount. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. You can save 10 years of mortgage payments and over $44,000 of interest by applying $75 a month on an accelerated basis to your mortgage payments. Save 10 years of mortgage payment and $44,000 of interest payments. And by accelerating your mortgage like that, which originally was an 8% mortgage, you're paying the equivalent of a 5% mortgage. Because you're paying it off so quickly that 75% is applied directly to the principal, so there's less interest to pay month after month. You're effectively paying as much as you would on a 5% mortgage. All right, so if you don't like 8%, well, do you like 5%? Because this is a strategy and you have the cash flow to do it to pay 5%. All right, and you're shaving off 10 years before it's free and clear. So I'm going to show you a nice little site, okay? It's the cchwebsites.com. They have a calculator here that allows you to see and play with the different variables that are involved in these calculations, okay? So in my example here, we have a $70,000 mortgage at 8%. This is the mortgage pay down over time. Over 30 years, you'll pay it off. And you'll notice at the beginning, you're almost only paying interest. It hurts a lot in the beginning. But one would argue, who cares? I'm cash flowing, which would be okay. But what if you added $75 a month to that? This is what happens. Look at this. What was a 30-year mortgage is now a 20-year mortgage. And look how quickly you're paying down the principal, the mortgage. And you're saving over $44,000 in the process, just with $75 extra a month. How amazing is that? Pretty cool? All right, so that was one I wanted to show you, the $75 rule. This could only work if you have cash flow, a nice cash flow. Next rule, JK's 25% strategy, okay? So it's another investing hack, and it says pay off 25% of your mortgage immediately or as quickly as possible. Again, this is highly effective in high interest mortgages, high interest loans. So you one time pay 25% as quickly as possible. What's this going to do? Same mortgage, $70,000 mortgage, it's an 8% for 30-year term. You will save 15 years of mortgage payments and save over $76,000 of interest. If you pay off 25% very quickly, right at the beginning, you are effectively turning an 8% mortgage into a 3% mortgage. All right? How awesome is that? All right? You can use the same calculator I showed previously to work those numbers out. So in this example, if you put $17,000 applied to the principal right out the gate one time, right? And your cash flow is still strong and we're not putting the $75 a month, that is the result you will get. You will cut the mortgage in half, you will reduce your overall payments in half, and spend half the time to pay it off, right? Again, you're reducing by half how much you have to pay, and you're reducing your time by half. So that's another 4 times multiplier on your investing, all right? Have you been keeping track? So these are the mathemagics of real estate. We went through 12, all right, in 45 minutes. And the rule of 72, the 80-20 rule, the 110-3 rule, the 2% rule, the 2 golden rules of real estate. So actually, this is a baker's dozen. You have 13 rules in here. The 50% rule, that's a quick estimation of how much is net from the gross. The 70% rule, which is buy at 30% discount on residential. The 10% rule to determine the value of an apartment building or mobile home park. the 15 cap rule, which is the ultimate safety net, the $100 rule for cash flow, make sure you're buying cash flow, and then JK's 70%, $75 strategy to chop 10 years off and $44,000 of interest, and the 25 strategy to chop your mortgage in half and pay half price. Wow. So if you're doubling the return for half the price just because you're in the US, and you're living 4 lives in one in terms of efficiency, and you're reducing how much you have to pay for your properties by half on top of it in half the time, how much are we talking about? Is this a 12 times better return? All right, in the chat, hear me. Is this a 12 times accelerator? I got a hand raised. Is that a yes? Do I have yes? Do I have no? I'm too lost? Is too much happening? Too many numbers here? Is that what that is? I'll trust you, Wendy says. No, this is a lot more than that, okay? We are in the realm of compounding. You're applying multiplicative factors, one on top of the other. You're multiplying. You are investing 64 times more powerfully by applying these tricks all together. 64 times. Right? So is it so crazy to think that Janie and I in 3 years have over 100 units in our portfolio? Well, no, we're just applying these principles, and really we've been underproductive because it's been 3 years. We should have done that in 2 years, right? There are huge tricks and huge accelerators, just mathematically speaking, and we're not even talking about compounding the time factor by learning from someone who's gone through it and so forth, right? Just the fact that you're listening to this is a compound. Well, it's the 80-20 rule in a big sense, but that's where the power is. That's right where it is. Oh, how wonderful is that? So we want you to join into the action, join into the fun. Won't have time to go into this beautiful case study here, but we'll invite you, if you haven't already been, to our USA workshop. It's there. It's a 2-day intensive, but more importantly, if you're not already part of the Now for Tomorrow Club, this is a chance where you can ask your questions live once a week on a coaching, and it's actually every Thursday at 8 p.m. So right after this, I'm going to hop off this training and hop on to the premium membership mastery call, where maybe some of you on the call are part of that as well. You can come in and ask any questions about the rules we just talked about, or in your investing, maybe you hit an obstacle, maybe you have a win you want to share, and you want to just immerse yourself and have access to us. The Now for Tomorrow Club is there for you. It is normally $197 a month. You have it for $1 for 1 month, a free trial for $1, and you have access to so many things. nowfortomorrow.club/NFTC is where you need to register for the Now for Tomorrow Club, NFTC, Now for Tomorrow Club. So nowfortomorrow.club/NFTC. So what's involved? There's a whole 14-hour e-course on how to get started. That's the 80-20 rule to the max. We're telling you exactly the steps you need to follow to get to the point of buying a property as quickly as possible. So that's what the gurus don't tell you. They just sell you the dream. I'm showing you the steps. The Now for Tomorrow Club members are also part of a private Facebook group. So on top of the weekly group coaching sessions, you're part of the Facebook group where you can chime in, and other Now for Tomorrow clubbers and ourselves are monitoring and being part of that. So bring your deals and so forth. Bring your questions, bring your challenges. It's all there for you. What else? The Now for Tomorrow Club Resource Center, which is your real estate toolbox. You want scripts, you want templates, you want contracts, you want theory, you want to read up on a particular topic before you dive into something. The Now for Tomorrow Club is under construction, but there's already a couple dozen resources in there right now, including raising capital, posturing yourself to raise capital, common objections that private lenders will share and will have, and you will be prepared for all that. 80-20 rule to the max. So just know that this is my homework for the next 6 months, to bring all of our resources that we've accumulated over the years here for you in the toolbox, the Now for Tomorrow Club Resource Center. All right, so that's it. That's the training for the month. I know it was a lot. I know it was fast, but listen back to the recording. Oh, the Now for Tomorrow Club also has all those recordings all in one place, including the mastery calls. Everything is recorded for you to view. So if you missed it or you want to rewatch, it's there. and you can speed me up or slow me down as needed. So next month, we're going to talk about real estate investments, the niches, and some specific strategies that you can use. It's on the 4th Thursday of the month, June 25th. Mark your calendar. We'll be there. We have maybe time for one question. Janie, did a question come up that wasn't answered along the way?
Yeah, just one question. Let's see here. Okay. How would you find a market cap?
Ask around. Realtors have the good beat on that, right? Just ask your realtor, but you'll quickly get to know. Go on the MLS and just see where everything is falling. You'll look at 5, 10 properties and you'll see that they'll all pretty much be in the same range. Look for a property that's basically turnkey, fully occupied, that's just in good condition, in a good neighborhood, not A neighborhood, but just like in a C plus, B minus neighborhood. Just look into that range and see what it's selling for. Figure out the NOI, what it's selling for, and figure out the cap rate there. You'll quickly find what the market cap is. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Kyle. We're going to be logging off and heading to the Now for Tomorrow Club.
Awesome. All right. So if you want to get a hold of us, we have email, we have a website, but otherwise, if you want to jump into the Premium Mastery Call right now, it's nowfortomorrow.club/NFTC. And we're heading there. So I hope you really enjoyed this. I was super excited, and I hope it showed to deliver this and deliver it on time. 13 Mathemagics for real estate for you to tap into and really get you that 80-20. So lots of love. Hope you enjoyed. Until next time, Now for Tomorrow. Take care.
All right. Bye, guys.